Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the joint town hall on wildfire management by the Village of the Hills in the city of Lakeway, Texas. Part of the Tri-Cities here, we're working together on this to give you the information about how our first responders and our emergency management team has worked together so closely in order to update you on wildfire management, our preparations, and the agencies that are here. I'm glad you're with us tonight. This will be about an hour to cover the information that our team has put together for you. We really appreciate this. As always, not only will this be live streamed, but it will be available on the city webpage for people to view or comment on later on. So I thank you all for being here. And I also want to introduce my fellow from the Village of the Hills, Mayor Prout.
Thank you, Mayor Kilgore. Yeah, appreciate everyone joining. I think this is a really good opportunity for the community. Want to really see the full team and just their expertise and their just resources to leverage. And secondly, just wildfire prevention, community, making sure that you're taking care of your homes to prevent any potential and reduce any kind of incidences in the future is just really important. So we just want to thank everyone, particularly thank Lakeway for hosting me here, Wahida, the Tri-City Management Coordinator, and then obviously Lake Travis Fire Rescue and Pertinalis Fire Department.
Right. So thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. And so now we'll turn it over to our staff. And who's going to take off? I guess Emergency Management Director Wahida Yousafzoi, you're going to kick us off? Yeah, and you're muted.
I can go ahead and start.
Okay.
Bobby Abbott with Lake Travis Fire Rescue, as it's mentioned. Hello, mayors. Hello, residents of Lakeway and the Hills and all that are joining us today. This evening. I want to appreciate you for investing the time in this. This is very important information, and it also helps us have an open dialogue to and from both the cities and the representing departments, but also the citizens and any concerns they have out there. And I'll turn that over to Wahida.
Thanks, Chief. I really appreciate you being here and the rest of the team. I wanted to kind of see if we can bring up the slides for a minute, if that's okay, Jared. We can go to the third slide. And one more. Thank you, Jared. So as the mayors have already mentioned, and we will continue to have the discussion throughout the hour that we are here today, my role as Tri-City Director of Emergency Management is really overseeing emergency operations for the three cities. I've been doing this role for the past 2.5 years. Really appreciate the support that I've been having and getting, not only from the stakeholders, but the constituents, which is yourselves. I wanted to give you a brief overview of what we've been doing the past couple of years. And this is really brief, to be honest, because really want to focus the rest of the hour on wildfire mitigations, and also have our city forester who will be speaking to us in a few minutes and discuss what they've been doing on the mitigation efforts there. So with that said, the goal here is to really have a whole community approach. That's from the constituents to city leadership to mayors and to staff. We do a lot of collaboration and communication within the three cities. Overall, on a day-to-day basis, give or take, depending on the disaster or the event that's taken place. And this could be a planned event, or it could be an event or a disaster that's occurring at the time. We have, I want to say, about 30 to 35 stakeholders, including our emergency service districts that are on the call right now, ESD 6 and ESD 8. One key area that I do want to focus on, since we are talking about wildfire preparedness, is the fact of working on an all hazards evacuation plan. And this is for all hazards, not just wildfire preparedness, but anything in regards to a gas leak that may occur. With that, we've started this planning process with the Tri-City stakeholders and public safety partners. That started in October. We've had 4 planning meetings since October. We took January and February as a gap, I should say, just because we had some instances occurring with some freezes, but we are continuing to have an all hazards evacuation plan to provide to the mayors and council for adoption. And once we have that adopted, we will go ahead and share that plan with the constituents. Throughout the 2.5 years, we've had several exercises and trainings that we've been doing. We've had symposiums. We've had a wildfire mitigation symposium that we did last August. It was the first symposium. We had we had about 65 attendees from city leadership, but we had 12 stakeholders from PEC to LCRA, Austin Water, our Travis County Parks, Travis County Sheriff's Office. These are the stakeholders that really build the foundation, I should say, for emergency management. This position is a new position. It's a new program. We've had it for a couple of years prior to me starting the program, but starting a foundation and working with the entities that we have, it's really going to build on what we can do for the future, especially for the safety of our constituents. We've also established a shelter and a warming center. Lakeway Church is our primary shelter and warming center for the Tri-City. We actually had it activated 3 times already, starting in January. We have a volunteer group of, I want to say about 65 individuals. We are having a CERT training that's coming up June 6th, 7th, and 8th. The sign-up process is a little tricky, and I apologize in advance for that. But if you are interested in being part of the CERT training program, please contact me directly. We also have it on our webpage for you to sign up. One main area to focus on is personal readiness. With that, the goal for that is really, we can only do the best we can as public safety servants, but we need you to be ready. So if you're able to, we really, really emphasize having a go kit and having a communication plan with your family. If something were to occur, we really want you to make sure you have a plan in regards to making sure that your family is safe, and not only your family, but also your pets and the elderly, and also anybody with access and functional needs. If you have any information that you need from us, we're more than happy to provide that for you. The slide that Jared put up right now, it's a report that myself and Chief Abbott from LTFR EST 6 put together with the help of Dustin Dunn and Gus Renya, who's our resource coordinator for the county. This has a plethora of information of what we've been working on, not only on the emergency management side, but on the preparedness side for wildfires. Next slide. Thank you. With this comes emergency alerts. 2 main areas we really want everybody to focus on is Warren Central Texas and Voyant. I want to go over the difference between the 2 here for a minute. Warren Central Texas is a regional platform. We really encourage everybody to be signed up for Warren Central Texas. Voyant, at the same time, we encourage you to sign up because that's a local notification system that we provide for the Tri-City, which is Lakeway, Bee Cave, and the Hills. Those notification systems comes from our PIOs and or our communication directors from LTFR, Jared Wise, who's our communications director for City of Lakeway, and we also have Crystal Cotty, who's our communications director for City of Bee Cave. Next slide. And from here, I'm actually going to turn it over to our city forester. Sorry, Dustin, I'm going to have you wait.
Hello, everyone. I am Richard Leon. I'm the city forester here with the City of Lakeway. And I'm just going to go over a little bit of what we've been doing here in Lakeway to mitigate the potential for a wildfire and the potential severity for that wildfire. So I'll put a quick PowerPoint up. I did do a demo of this earlier and it seemed to work. So just bear with me here. All right. Jared, is that presentation up on the screen now? Can you all see that presentation there?
Yes, you're good to go.
Okay, I appreciate it. All right, so every X here represents a parcel that the city owns and has maintenance responsibilities over. The green X's are ones that we have already been through, and the red are the ones that we have yet to go. So really, we started in Hamilton Greenbelt, and then if you can kind of see in a funky way, we're kind of working counterclockwise around the city. So we hope to get to every park between a 5 and a 10-year cycle. So we want some time for those forests to accumulate some dead wood. We're not going to rush out there the moment a dead branch hits the ground and pick it up. We do want them to accumulate, but with any sort of risk mitigation, it's just on what scale is that risk mitigation. Where on the one hand, we could completely level all of our forests and we'll never have to worry about a wildfire. And on the other hand, we could do absolutely nothing and be more on the negligent side if a wildfire does occur. So we're kind of managing our forests on that spectrum. So we, kind of thought a 5 to 10 year cycle would be ideal. So here's our parks with their acreages and our estimated costs on that. This slide isn't too entertaining, but just one point I really would like to make is this really is an effort that multiple stakeholders need to be involved in. So what you're seeing on this slide here is one of our small acreages. It's a 12-acre park off of Serene Hills, and really it's only about just under 10% of the full forested area there. So we can go through it and do full wildfire mitigation on our own parcels. But if the adjacent properties aren't doing it on theirs, the little bit that we do will have a very negligible effect on the overall potential for a wildfire and the severity of that wildfire in that area. So in the red there, that's owned by multiple stakeholders. So I think some of it's Falcon Head, some of it's Berkshire Lakeway Apartments, some of it's the Serene Hills HOA, and some of it is vacant land, I believe, owned by HEB. So here's some before and after. This is Sailfish Park. You'll see on the left the before and on the right the after. We went through and basically removed a bunch of dead vegetation and limbed up a lot of the trees. Here we go again. There's also Sailfish Park, a before and after on your left, and before on your left and after on your right. And when I'm talking about wildfire work, this is what our crews are doing. A lot of that dead wood, we're going through and chipping it up. And by chipping up the wood, what we're doing is we're reducing the fuel load there, but also adding the chips back, to the forested land helps to control and kind of mitigate erosion. And it also is adding nutrients back into the soil. So here's, Sailfish Park after we removed a lot of those dead trees. It actually opened up quite a beautiful view. And that was just removing some dead trees and some dead ligustrums and china berries that were out there. This is Rebel Park here on the left. You can kind of see like what that park looked like before. And then you see the after. There's actually a buck enjoying some of that mulch that we put down in Rebel Park. Hamilton Greenbelt, we've gone through and done quite a bit of wildfire mitigation there. And that's just chipping up dead and downed debris. Canyonlands was quite difficult and quite tricky to get through. A lot of topographical challenges there. But we were able to get quite a bit of Canyonlands there. There's our crews, pulling out some of the places we can't get equipment to. We're often able to winch some of the debris out of there. Here's Canyonlands as well, and it's it's quite an interesting park and one that presented a lot of challenges. There we are chipping some debris. And one of the challenges is we actually got our chipper stuck down there. We had to, call in the cavalry and get the Bobcat out there to actually lift up the rear end of that chipper and turn it around so we can get it out of some of those tight squeezes. But we were able to get quite a bit done in Canyonlands. And also when we went through, when we did, we were chipping up a lot of the debris. It also exposed a lot of trash and litter that was in a lot of our forests. So went back through there and picked up a lot of that trash, and you kind of see before and after in some of our forests there. So we're going through our forest. We have 2 more forested areas that we haven't touched yet, at least since my 3-year tenure here at the city of Lakeway. And once we get to the end, we'll start right back at the beginning and work our way around again. There's some more of Canyonlands. All that debris there was chipped up. And I guess we'll save the questions for the end. But if anybody has any questions, for me, by all means, save it for the end or put it in the chat. I'm happy to get back with you. Thank you for your time. And with that, I'll pass it on to I guess, Dustin. Are you taking over next?
I believe so. Alrighty. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dustin Dunn. I am the Wildfire Mitigation Specialist for Lake Travis Fire Rescue. I administer our fuels mitigation team as well as our Firewise communities here in Travis County ESD number 6. I have also recently been chosen as the executive chair for the Austin Travis County Wildfire Coalition, which will be working very soon to rewrite our community wildfire protection plan, which largely guides wildfire policy across the county for a 10-year period, and is also a vehicle used to acquire grant funding at the federal level. Okay, next slide, please. So I want to start off by giving you guys some context about why we are where we are today with wildfire in the United States and here locally. So this is a map of the average fire return interval in North America. As some of you may know, North American ecosystems evolved with wildfires and started by lightning and the indigenous people. Some species, such as loblolly pines, require fire to germinate their seeds and grow. So it is an integral part of our ecosystem that we have here in the US, and especially here in Texas. As you can see with the dark red color, we have an average 2-year return interval for wildfires. Now, this was the historical case largely before Western settlers came to North America. So with that average 2-year return interval, we should be seeing quite a bit of wildfires. Unfortunately, or fortunately, our fire service has been so effective at extinguishing these fires that we don't see those traditional fire return intervals that we would. And this has a dramatic effect on the landscape and the vegetation ecosystem. Next slide, please. In the 1880s, the National Weather Service was created and started to study North America's climate, and largely found that there was, on the 100th meridian, a major change in the climates. And you can see on east of the 100th meridian, known as the humid east, far more rainfall than the arid west. Today, the 98th meridian is largely where that divide sits now. So that divide between the humid east and arid west is migrating east and is projected to move another 2 or 3 degrees by the year 2100. We are projected to have roughly a Laredo-like climate by the year 2050. In the 1990s, we would have enjoyed 7 days of over 100 degrees. And by 2050, we're projected to have an average of 43 days over 100 degrees. So this change in climate and rainfall will have a significant effect on the severity of wildfires that we will see in the future. Next slide, please. So in the 1930s, the Forest Service created the 10 a.m. policy, and the 10 a.m. policy mandated that every wildfire be extinguished by 10 a.m. the next day. So with that lack of low intensity fires spreading across the landscape, a massive buildup of vegetation has taken place. And in some areas, an entire fuel type change has taken place where once you may have had grasslands, now you have woodlands. In the 1960s, prescribed fire was studied by the Forest Service and found to be very beneficial to forest ecology. And it took until the 1970s to take more of a managed wildfire approach, where when these wildfires would take place, they weren't immediately extinguished. They could be corralled and managed to achieve some of the restoration and land management objectives of the Forest Service. Then in the 1990s, Jack Cohen, again from the Forest Service, his pioneering research into how structures ignite from wildfires laid the foundation for the home ignition zone and the framework which demonstrates how we build our homes and communities has a major impact on their survivability in extreme wildfires. And largely his findings were that embers are the true cause of many of structures being lost in these extreme wildfires, which seems to go counter to how most people imagine wildfires affect communities. They imagine a tsunami of flames coming and washing over the community and destroying everything in its path. But it's largely those small embers landing on structures or in the immediate area around the structures, or even being pulled inside of the structures, finding susceptible fuel and igniting a fire very close to the home where we have much control. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share this image to show how wildfires really work, especially the intense wildfires that we're often seeing on the news these days. At the top of the screen, you can see where the red arrow, the intense crown fire, took place around 2:30 p.m. that day, and you can see the dramatic effect that it had on the landscape, essentially destroying every tree and even the soil under the trees because of how intense that fire was. Just below where that fire took place, you can see the lower intensity surface fire where a shaded fuel break was installed. This is what fuels mitigation does. Its overall objective is to separate the canopy of the trees, the aerial fuels within those trees from the ground fuels to reduce overall fire intensity. Fuels mitigation and shaded fuel breaks do not stop wildfires. As some of you may know, the embers from these wildfires, with the strong winds that are often involved in these intense wildfires, can lob embers very long distances. And if those embers find susceptible fuel, a new fire may start in that area. So we see at the bottom of the screen, between 3:30 and 5 p.m., those houses started to ignite from the embers or the low intensity fire that creeped into those properties and found susceptible fuels on the structure or immediately around the structure, causing them to ignite. Then when one house ignites, depending on the proximity to the next structure, that fire can easily spread to the next house. Typically on a structure fire, there's anywhere between 4 and 6 apparatus that are required largely just to contain that structure fire, let alone save the structure and protect it from loss. So just to give you an idea of how many resources are required to contain just one structure fire, their intensity, the embers that are thrown. Next slide, please. Many people believe that it's the trees that need to be managed, and the trees are the things that are destroying our homes. But as you may be able to see in this image, all of the gray is the footprints of homes that were destroyed. And there is still plenty of green trees that are happy and healthy after that wildfire. Most of the trees that were destroyed from this fire were destroyed from the homes burning outwards, not the fire burning into the home. Next slide, please. I like to show this image because it's very shocking and messes with sort of our understanding and perception of wildfire. I imagine many of you are thinking, oh my gosh, how is it even possible that this home survived with fire that intense, that close to that structure? And I believe that largely comes from our perception and feelings of fire, that we couldn't possibly withstand that type of heat and energy. But for the most part, a well-maintained structure with good materials can withstand those sorts of temperatures. Notice that this is also an entirely wood structure, which is very much a combustible material, but you can also tell that it's very fresh wood and very well-maintained property. The trees are cut back away from the structure so that they're not immediately around the structure. Next slide, please. This is an image from the Lahaina wildfires that happened just a few years ago. You can see that this entire community was largely wiped off of the face of the earth, except for this one home. This is a historic home, over 100 years old. They had just recently refurbished their home. The exterior of the structure, other than the roof, is entirely clad with wood. You can see that it has a raised wood deck and wood staircase as well attached to the structure. But because it's a wood structure, they had issues with termites. So in the refurbishment process, they removed all of the vegetation in the immediate area around the structure. You may be able to see that there's some rock installed in that immediate area around the structure. And with those well-maintained materials and the lack of susceptible fuels in that immediate area around the structure, it was able to survive. Next slide, please. So the two primary things that you need to know is the home hardening of your structure, choosing materials, ideally non-combustible, very durable materials. You can see in the image in the upper right, for the most part, the structure on the left is entirely clad with wood, has a wood mulch bed with some vegetation in it, and it is very much igniting. This is in a facility in South Carolina where they build these structures and fire embers at the structure to test different materials and to really research structure ignition science. This is from the Insurance Institute of Business and Home Safety. And you can see that the structure on the right, largely non-combustible materials, rock mulch instead of wood mulch, is standing up to those embers with no problem at all. The defensible space around the structure, this is primarily about managing the fire behavior around your structure. Many of your homes already have great defensible space. Most of the trees that I see in Lakeway and the hills are all very well maintained with what we would essentially call a shaded fuel break, where we prune up the limbs of the tree so that the canopy is disconnected from the ground fuels. It has the name defensible space because it was intended to show that you need to make your space safe enough for a firefighter to actually defend your home. But we are getting away from using this term because of the types of wildfires that we're experiencing today. They're so intense and so quick, with a perfect alignment of climatic conditions that create the most extreme fire behavior. Completely stretch all of our resources to their maximum and beyond. And it is very likely that you will not have a apparatus that could protect your house. So all of the home hardening efforts are about having that passive defense that requires no protection other than what you have done in preparation for this fire to protect it. Next slide, please. The biggest thing that the Insurance Institute of Business and Home Safety has found is that immediate area around the structure. The first 5 feet is extremely critical to the survival of structures in these types of wildfires. As you can see in this image, roughly 5 feet from the structure, those embers are loitering, and if there is any susceptible fuels in those areas to those embers, it can and likely will ignite in the conditions that these extreme wildfires happen. Next slide, please. So the home ignition zone, it's broken into 3 areas. Again, the immediate zone is the structure itself and the first 5 feet, the most critical. If you are going to do any mitigation work around your home, please start here first. This is without a doubt the most critical and biggest bang for your investment. Outside of that, it's all about the different fuel sources and their proximity to each other. We want to have discontinuous fuel sources for the fire so that it doesn't have the ability to grow very intensely. Next slide, please. Firewise is a very important program that we are a major advocate for, as well as the city leadership. At one point, the city of Lakeway was a Firewise community. Firewise has shrunken down to a very local level because this is where all of the movement and really all of the risk reduction that makes the most impact to the community members' lives takes place. It is extremely important to get this culture within your community to care about this issue and invest in this issue. As I had discussed about the climate earlier, it's going to get worse, but we have time. We are not California yet. It is a possibility for the future. So we need to start coming together now as a community and working towards mitigating our homes. As I had mentioned, the proximity of our structures is what is most concerning. The way that structures burn is entirely different from the way that natural vegetation will burn, and structure to structure ignition in these types of wildfires with the proximity of our structures can very much take place and is largely responsible responsible for much of the destruction that we're seeing on the news these days. Next slide, please. So if you're interested in having a home ignition zone assessment with myself, please use this QR code or my Calendly link to schedule your assessment. Or if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out at wildfire@ltfr.org. I want to come into your community, and I want to hang out with you, and I want to help build this wildfire prepared culture in your community. Thank you. Got the whole gang back together.
We do, and I'm not sure, Jared, if there's any questions that popped up throughout the session.
We do. We do have a question on social media. This might be a Richard. This might be a question for you. What are you doing to get trees trimmed by Austin Energy in green belts and along Lomans?
Austin Energy, PEC, and LCRA, they all utility companies are responsible for maintaining their own infrastructure. So we don't trim anything that's near their infrastructure, and all of these entities have their lines on a rotation. So typically it's either every 3 to 5 years they'll do a full clearing with a hot spot in the middle. If there's any specific areas where there's maybe a tree getting too close to the power lines, you're welcome to bring that to my attention, and I can forward it along to my counterpart at the, whichever utility it is. But I used to be a utility forester for several years, and I can tell you most times, probably over 50% of the times, people are saying the trees are too close to the power lines. It's actually not the power lines. It's a communication line or something like that. So, I'm happy to go take a look at it if there's a specific location, and then pass that on to the party responsible for maintaining it.
Jared, this is Mayor Kilgore.
Yes, sir.
Let me add that we receive emails and comments on specific locations frequently in the city, and those emails are then coordinated, sometimes myself or with Richard or with Wahida, to contact the utility. And if there's a specific area, we've found that Austin Energy will respond if it's an encroachment. But as Richard said, frequently people mistake a cable line for a power line, and it's not scheduled for maintenance until the next specified round. Austin Energy has done a fairly good job of cleaning up Lomans, the lines that lead to the hills, which were problematic in the first 2 ice storms. They have largely been mitigated at this point. Although with any with any tree that grows quickly, we're always on the lookout, and we do have a direct line to Austin Energy to ask them to look at each individual circuit as necessary. So.
Thank you. And we did receive an email question. This is kind of lengthy, so bear with me, from Mr. Gable. This might be for the group, so feel free to chime in. Please discuss the city's efforts to apply for wildfire mitigation grant funds. The city received grant funding 2 to 3 years ago, which was used for mitigation projects on Hamilton Greenbelt and North Lakeway. There is a need for mitigation efforts at the Highlands Boulevard Greenbelt Trail System. However, neither the developer nor the city have taken responsibility for alleviating the risk, although more people access the trails since the construction of Highland Boulevard parking lot. Please discuss any future plans for mitigation projects.
I can answer that partially. So Highlands Boulevard, a lot of those lands out there they haven't been turned over to the city, so they're still owned, maintained, and maintenance responsibility is on the HOAs or the developers if they're still in that stage. As far as grants, there was a grant that we had utilized to clear the Hamilton Greenbelt, which concluded at the start of my tenure here at the city of Lakeway. Since then, the city has funded a wildfire mitigation plan, which has been fully funded, which I use to kind of work our way through. But I'm not aware of any current grants as far as wildfire goes. But we do. City Council did pass a budget that I utilize annually on, like I said, a 5 to 10 year cycle to go through our green belts and the lands that we manage here.
Yes, and if I can add, this is a recurring question from the resident who sent it in. The City of Lakeway has a grant specialist. That grant specialist does survey every available grant for wildfire mitigation, and we apply to all which we are eligible. And the city continues to fund wildfire management on its long-range plan, somewhere between $200,000 and $500,000 per year, depending on the scope and the magnitude. Again, as Richard said, the lands in question in the Canyonlands are not city property. They are the responsibility of the HOAs at this time. And so the city is working out its annexation program, which of course will lead us to have to spend more money on wildfire mitigation, as well as having additional equipment, like off-terrain vehicles for the police department and first responders to be able to get into some of those hard-to-reach areas. It is something that is in each and every city budget since I've been here for the last 4 years, and will continue to be a priority. Thank you.
And that was the final question we received so far. So if you all would like to make any kind of final comments or bring up any other discussion items, now is a good time.
Any comments from our two fire agencies? I'd like to hear if there's anything we really appreciate. I know Mayor Proud and I are so happy to have our first responders and our cooperation and our work with both ESD 6 and ESD 8. We're glad to see two senior representatives with us tonight. Is there any comment from you gentlemen about the program or how we're working together?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank all the citizens. For a long time, for many years, we've had a lot of community engagement on the volunteer level, and that's been instrumental in a lot of these projects. As you all know, if you've been in the mitigation world long enough, whether you're a citizen or part of the city or the staff or one of the departments, it's a very long, protracted phase program. I mean, we make jokes that this stuff didn't grow overnight, and it's not going to go away overnight. And when you cut it, it eventually grows back. So it is a prolonged process to handle the mitigation work in the community. And we've had a lot of volunteers in a lot of those days in the past. We want to thank you all, the concerted effort that you make in the parks, the communities, and at the meetings where you share your concerns, you share information we may not be aware of. Sometimes things do get past us, and we have a very aware community in the Lake Travis area, Lakeway, in the hills. And we need that. We need that to continue. We need open dialogue from folks that may have concerns. We do our best to get out there and assess the concerns. We do get a lot of concerns of my neighbor is doing this or they're doing that. And when we talk about that, we can see what the concern is, but we also see concerns on that individual's property as well, which sometimes they don't want to talk about their own specific concerns. And we try to have those discussions, because it's easy for me to look across my fence line and find all the things my neighbor could be doing differently to better protect their home. But often I don't look at my own home as well as I should, because I just see it every day, and I may not see it's a risk. I can't emphasize the importance of being ready to go, and it goes without saying. If you can prepare for something, you're going to be ahead of the game. Most people who've had to evacuate in a real life situation were not prepared. And what they find is if they ever got an evacuation and they're out and about, we use the the Labor Day fires in September of 2011, where a good part of the Steiner Ranch community was out shopping, they were out recreating, they were away from their homes, and the evacuation order was given. And a lot of them had to get back into Steiner to pick up loved ones, to pick up their pets, or to get their go bags for those at that time who had them. They were not prepared to evacuate because they weren't home. So there's a lot of things that we need to think ahead on in what we call blue sky times, when when the incident or the concern is not at the highest, that's probably the best time to prepare. And that's usually when you want to prepare and you have the best clear head on what you're going to need. And it's really not that hard. We want to make sure you have the essentials in your go bag, because you don't know how long you may be displaced from a house. And it's just not wildland. There are other situations that could require you to need to leave, and we want to make sure that you're ready. So again, we go back to all the planning that Wahida has done. She's done an amazing job preparing the cities for any kind of emergency, and starting to have comfortable discussions about things that may be uncomfortable to talk about, because now we have a lot of different professionals on top of this, from forestry to WUI to obviously the fire department, emergency management, to the policymakers. And I think this is important to thank all the elected staff, or I'm sorry, the elected officials in the city of Lakeway and the Hills for all the work they do. Policy is very important. We talked about the mechanical mitigation work, the mitigation projects that can be done, but also policy and the significant role that the HOAs play in home hardening, landscape approvals, and things that will take us into the next level of full Firewise community planning. So
I just want to echo what Chief Abbott is saying is the ability for the cities to fund these things and the policies that drive it all. But thanks to everybody for being here tonight. Just you're showing a certain level of preparedness already as we continue forward with some of the mitigation efforts. Speaking of the HOAs, that is an area that we know that we need to help them out possibly as well, as they don't necessarily have the funding all the time. So that's something that's come up through a conversation with Travis County Parks that we were having yesterday. And I think response-wise, I think just like Dustin said, we're doing a great job. We can go knock out a quick fire, almost to the devastation of a burning even. But we just need to continue to do so, continue to keep this at the forefront as we continue to prepare for this likely event that it will happen at some point. But it's the collaboration between all the agencies, everybody that Wahida is bringing together, the fire service, us working with Lake Travis Fire Rescue as well, and all those collaborative efforts that are going on are going to help us out throughout the future.
And as you all were talking, I'm sorry to interrupt. We did have another question come in through Facebook. Are there any plans to address the Serene Hills green belts for wildfire mitigation?
Yes, the Serene Hills green belts are part of the program, and there's two parts to the Serene Hills green belt. There's the green belt owned by the HOA, which they're managing, and then there are the spaces that are, as Richard pointed out, we are going counterclockwise, and that would put Serene Hills coming up soon, but not at the very next phase. So probably in this budget cycle or the next, you'll be seeing Serene Hills scheduled for its green space that's managed by the city of Lakeway to be addressed.
And I'll just add to that right quick. Mayor Tom is absolutely correct. We are working counterclockwise. So the Serene Hills, the section that we own is only about 12 acres. So we should be getting to that at the beginning of the next budget cycle. And I have been in contact with members of the Serene Hills HOA. I've walked their green belts and discussed with them having their HOA put together a budget to potentially start doing work on the property that they own. And they were very on board with doing that. So hopefully they can coordinate that for when we get out there as well.
Thank you, Richard. Mayor Proud, any last words before we let everybody go?
I just want to thank everyone for joining. I mean, wildfire preparedness is a shared responsibility that we all need to work together, stay informed, and really take proactive steps that our resources here have lined out, so that way we can significantly enhance the safety of both the communities. And again, just want to thank Lakeway for all of their regional support, and to all of our emergency services and our Tri-City emergency staff for all of their engagement, really helping us better the communities as a whole.
Indeed. Thank you, Mayor Proud. We couldn't do this without the cooperation of all three of the municipalities here, the City of BK, Village of the Hills, City of Lakeway. It is a cooperative effort. We have great teamwork. You can see we have great teamwork between our first responders and our emergency services districts. So thank you, everybody, for attending this live town hall. As always, it's not just live streamed, but it'll be available.
Whoops. And right at the end, it looks like we lost Mayor Kilgore and Mayor Proud.
I think he was saying that it'll be available on the website, a recorded message. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think that's where he was going.
And it will be, so you can find it on Facebook, X, and YouTube City channel. And we'll also be posting this to our website as well. So thank you all for participating in this town hall today. And thank you all for watching. And we hope you have a safe evening and a very safe weekend. Thank you all.
Take care. Thank you all for